Alright folks, Thursday's video, and we're diving straight into what's been buzzing around Celtic Park this week. The transfer update. Strap yourselves in because there's plenty to talk about, and some of it's gonna sting while other bits might just spark a wee bit of excitement in the hearts of the faithful. Let's get into it, starting with one name that briefly lit up social media before vanishing into the distance just as quickly. Isak Jansson. Now yesterday was one of those days where the rumor mill kicked into overdrive. Word came out that Isak Jansson, the Swedish winger playing for Rapid Vienna, had pulled out of training with his club. That's the kind of thing that gets tongues wagging and hopes rising, especially when whispers of a €10 million bid being accepted started making the rounds. Fans started connecting dots, and it wasn't long before people were convinced Celtic were finally throwing some serious cash around. Here we go, folk were saying, the club's stepping up. But just as quickly as the excitement built, it crumbled. Turns out the club behind that bid wasn't Celtic after all. It was League One side Nice. That's right, the French outfit swooped in and secured the deal. So for anyone who got their hopes up about Jansson lighting up the wings at Celtic Park next season, sorry. It's over before it even began. And listen, it's always frustrating when a name starts getting traction, when it feels like something's genuinely cooking behind the scenes, and then suddenly, poof, it's gone. But that's the nature of the transfer window. There's no room for sentiment, no time to dwell on missed targets. We move on. Thankfully, there is some more promising news, and this one feels a lot more real. Let's talk about Shuya Yamada, a name that's been floating around for a wee while now. And the buzz is only growing. This is the kind of forward that catches your eye, not because he's flashy or a YouTube highlight machine, but because he knows where the goal is and how to find it. The Kawasaki Frontale striker was absolutely electric last season in the J1 League. He just couldn't stop scoring. This year, not quite the same story, but we'll come back to that. Now, according to reports from both Japanese and Scottish media, this deal is looking very close to happening. Over in Japan, papers like Sports Hochi are saying Celtic are on the brink of signing Yamada. They reveal that the forward is likely to make the move after his commitments with the Japanese national team wrap up. And that timeline makes sense. He's currently with Japan's E1 Championship squad, a tournament that doesn't include overseas-based players, which is why Yamada got the callop. That's been a real opportunity for him, and from what we've seen so far, he's making the most of it. Japan's played one match already, and he featured for about 45 minutes. 2 more matches remain, with a final one scheduled for next Tuesday. After that, all signs point to him heading to Glasgow. Back home in the Scottish media, the tone's very much the same. It's been reported that Yamada is set to undergo a medical with Celtic shortly after the tournament ends. He'll join up following the conclusion of his national team duties, with the move expected to be finalized soon after. And this isn't just idle speculation. This has the feel of something serious. All the signals point to Celtic making this happen. And let's be clear about the kind of player we're talking about here. Shuya Yamada is very much a penalty box predator, a fox in the box type. He's quick, he's got clever movement, and while he's not the tallest or the most physically imposing, he's incredibly sharp in the air. It's all about anticipation time in it, and that instinctive knack for finding space in crowded areas. He's the kind of striker who thrives on chances being created for him. And if there's one thing Celtic will do next season, it's create chances. Of course it's not all perfect. This current season hasn't been his best. Just 6 goals across. All competitions, 2 of those in the J1 League from 20 appearances. That's quite a drop compared to the 19 he netted last season in the league alone. But before we jump to conclusions, it's worth digging a bit deeper. His minutes have been inconsistent this year. Lots of appearances off the bench coming on for 15-20 minutes. In fact, across his matches this season, very few have seen him play more than an hour. That tells you part of the story right there. And yet last season paints a completely different picture. 19 goals in 38 J1 League matches is nothing to scoff at. He hit a real purple patch in the second half of the campaign, going on a tear with multiple games where he scored braces. When this lad's confident, he catches fire, and Celtic will be hoping they can be the spark that ignites him again. There's something else worth noting too. He's 25 now. Not a youngster by footballing standards, but still in the right window for a player to make that leap to hit his prime. Celtic might be looking at Yamada and thinking, here's a guy who just needs the right environment, the right system, and he could be a major asset. And given how often Celtic dominate games in the Scottish Premiership, he's going to get opportunities. Lots of them. If he can rediscover the form from last year, this could turn out to be a brilliant bit of business. There's even more insight. If we go back to the conversation with Japanese football expert Ryo Nagawara, who spoke about Yamada's qualities, he described him as a poacher, a striker whose movement inside the area is elite. According to Shuya Yamada, might not be finishing chances this season, but he's still getting into the right positions. And that's half the battle. Finishing slumps come and go, but movement, awareness, anticipation, that's the stuff that doesn't disappear overnight. And if Celtic are patient, they might be rewarded with a player who starts banging them in again. So while we might have waved goodbye to Isak Jansson before we even got to say hello properly, the story with Shuya Yamada is a lot more encouraging. Everything suggests that it's not a matter of if, but when. And given the kind of player he is, a box striker with both feet good in the air, sharp in tight spaces, he could fit Celtic's system like a glove. But the market doesn't stop there. Another name swirling around is Michel-Ange Balikwisha. Now this one's been bubbling under the surface for a while. The Belgian winger from Royal Antwerp wasn't involved in their training sessions recently during pre-season in Austria. And while the official line from the club is that it's a fitness issue, you know how it goes, when a player suddenly disappears, from training amidst transfer rumors, people start putting two and two together. Balikwisha's name has been linked to Celtic for several windows now, and it's clear that interest is still there. He's quick, he's got flair, and he's the kind of wide player who can stretch defenses, something we'll definitely need with the departure of key players and the constant threat of injuries. That said, there are concerns. Injuries have been a recurring theme for him over the past 2 seasons, and that always raises red flags. But this is where the club's recruitment team earns their money. They'll be fully aware of his history. And if they're still chasing him, it suggests they think the upside outweighs the risks. You can also sense that the club is pushing to get deals done earlier than usual this summer. There's an urgency we haven't always seen in previous windows, and that's a good sign. Maybe the squad needs more work than we initially thought. At the end of last season, especially after that match against Bayern Munich, many fans probably felt like the team only needed a few quality additions. But as things stand, it's becoming more apparent that reinforcements are needed across the board. Apart from goalkeeper and right back, you could argue every other position needs strengthening. Left back, center back, both wings up front, maybe even another central midfielder. There's a long road ahead. And just to touch on the defense there, are still some names in the mix. One of the big ones doing the rounds is the Portuguese-based center-back Dias. That could still materialize. We'll wait and see. There's also been a small but interesting development with Johnny Kenny. The young striker looks set to sign a new contract with the club, as hinted at by Brendan Rodgers. Kenny himself has said he'd love to commit his future to Celtic. He even picked up a nasty knock in training recently. A bad one to the shin, apparently, but was so eager to feature against Cork City that he made sure he was available. That tells you a lot about his attitude. He wants to be here, and he wants to fight for his place. But he also knows that to make it as a first-team regular, he needs minutes, game time. And the best way to get that right now is to go out on loan. He's keen the club's open to it, and honestly, it makes total sense. There's a clear pathway mapped out for him. Develop elsewhere, come back stronger. And look, that's worked for plenty of players in the past. Ryan Christie, Christopher Ajer, the list goes on. Getting him out on loan to another Scottish Premiership side where he can test himself against the same teams Celtic face week in, week out. That's the smart play. He gets used to the league, the environment, the physicality, and the club gets a clearer picture of his potential. Same could apply to a few others too. Hayato Aramura, for instance. He's shown flashes of quality, and while he might end up staying alone, might be the best move at this point. Give these lads real matches, meaningful minutes, and let them prove themselves. And just to round things off for today, a wee note on the League Cup. The SPFL announced yesterday that they've signed a new and improved deal with Premier Sports, extending their sponsorship of the competition until the summer of 2031. That's another 6 years of it being called the Premier Sports Cup. Believe it or not, that'll make it the longest running sponsorship of the League Cup since the days of CIS Insurance between 1999 and 2008. Those were the iconic days for a lot of fans. It's funny how these names stick with you. Some folks still get nostalgic for the Coca-Cola Cup or the Skull Cup. For me, it was always the CIS Cup. Those were the glory days. The Premier Sports Cup rolls on starting this weekend. Celtic don't enter until mid-August, but we're chasing a 9th title in the last 12 seasons, which when you stop to think about it, is absolutely incredible. Right, let's keep this rolling because the story of this transfer window's far from finished and there's still plenty to unpack. We touched on the big names swirling around. Janssen off to France, Yamada likely heading to Celtic on Balikwisha under the microscope. But the bigger picture here is what Celtic's overall plan might be this summer. And if you're watching closely, you can see the pieces slowly starting to come together, even if the puzzle isn't finished just yet. One of the biggest things standing out this summer is the shift in urgency. Now, let's be honest, Celtic haven't always been known for moving fast in the transfer market. There have been plenty of windows where fans were pulling their hair out, waiting for the club to get deals over the line. But this time, it feels like something's changed. Whether it's Brendan Rodgers pushing harder behind the scenes or just the recognition from the board that more depth and quality is needed if we're going to compete on all fronts, especially in Europe. It's clear that business is happening a bit quicker than usual. Not lightning fast, mind you, but quicker. And the truth is this squad probably does need more work than most of us thought. Coming off the back of last season, especially after the Bayern Munich tie, it was tempting to believe we were just one or two quality signings away from being in really good shape. Maybe a new wing or a center half and we're laughing. But the reality has settled in a bit harsher. You look at the team now and realize we're probably a few players short in almost every area of the pitch. Center back remains a position of concern even with the names floating around. We need genuine depth there. Not just bodies, but quality. And let's not kid ourselves. The wing positions need strengthening too. With injuries and a couple of exits, it's looking light. We're talking both sides here, not just one. Left wing, right wing. Both need serious attention. Then there's the striker situation. If Yamada does come in, that helps. But we still need to be thinking ahead. One injury and the whole setup starts to wobble. So having a strong rotation, guys that can step in without a drop in quality is going to be crucial. Same story in midfield. We've got talent, absolutely, but do we have enough to handle the weight of domestic dominance and European aspirations at the same time? Maybe not. And don't even get me started on left back. There's been noise about bringing someone in to partner or cover for Kieran Tierney. I saw the name Tyrell Malaysia mentioned a few times, and while that feels a bit ambitious considering his caliber, and the wages he's likely on, you never say never in football. Surprises happen, and if there's one thing this club needs, it's competition in every area. No player should feel like their spot is guaranteed. Now, going back to Johnny Kenny for a second, I really think this lad's attitude is spot on. You can see in the way he talks about Celtic. This isn't just another club to him, it's the club. He wants to make it here. He knows the path might not be immediate, and he's willing to take the long road. Go out on loan work on his game, earn his minutes, and come back better for it. That's the kind of mindset that should be applauded. And again, the model is there. We've seen it work in the past. Ryan Christie went out, came back, became a vital player. Same for Christopher Ayer. It's a smart way to build players who can handle the pressure and expectations of Celtic. But here's the thing. When you're loaning guys out, you need to do it properly. Too often, promising players disappear on loan to clubs that don't suit their style or where they don't get the minutes they need. If we're serious about developing these young players, then we've got to be strategic. Kenny needs to go to a club where he's going to play. A club in the Premiership, ideally, so he's playing against the same opposition week in, week out. Let him cut his teeth against the physicality and the pace of this league. Let him learn what it takes. Same with Amamura, or maybe even a couple of others. And it's not just about development either. It's a tactical advantage. You loan a promising player to, say, Hibs or St. Mirren. That player is getting sharper, better, more experienced. And when they come back, they've already got a season under their belt in the environment Celtic need them to thrive in. And here's the kicker. They also help weaken our direct rivals by strengthening other teams when they face that other lot. But not when they play us, obviously. It's clever. And it's something we should be doing more often. Now, a lot of fans are anxious, and that's understandable. We're used to the summer dragging on with the club, maybe signing 1 or 2 players late in the window and scrambling to get them up to speed. But the sense this time is that the club knows how important this summer is. The Champions League's on the horizon again, and we can't afford to be caught short. Last season was a wake-up call. In many ways, domestically we're expected to dominate. That's the standard. But in Europe, that's where the gaps in quality get exposed. That's where we need those smart signings, those game changers who can make the difference in tight matches. And it's not just about talent, it's about profile. We've been linked with a few different types of players this window, and that tells me there's a shift in the way we're recruiting. Less focus on pure potential, more emphasis on guys who are ready to contribute now. Players like Yamada, who may not be 21 but have already proven themselves in serious leagues. Players with experience, with character, who can walk into Celtic Park and handle the weight of the shirt. That's important, because it's not just any club, it's Celtic. The expectations are different. You don't get 6 months to settle in. You need to hit the ground running. There's also a financial angle here. We've seen in recent windows that Celtic are willing to invest, within reason. They're not going to go out and spend silly money, but they will back the manager if they believe in the project. The signing of Jota, the money spent on Carter Vickers, these weren't cheap deals, but they were smart ones. And now with Rodgers back at the helm, there's a sense that the club is more aligned in terms of vision. Rodgers wants players who fit his system, who understand his style, and who can adapt quickly. And it seems like he's being listened to, which is massive. You also get the feeling that there's a bit of a reset happening. The squad's being reshaped not just for now, but for the next 2 or 3 years. It's not just about plugging holes, it's about building something sustainable. And that takes time. That takes patience. But if the early signs of this window are anything to go by, then at least the wheels are in motion. Deals are being worked on, players are being targeted with purpose, and the club seems to be operating with more clarity. Of course, no transfer window is complete without a few curveballs. Names will pop up out of nowhere. Rumors will come and go. Players we've never heard of will suddenly be on the verge of signing. That's just how it goes. But amidst all the noise, there's a clear direction starting to form. And if Celtic can keep this momentum going, if they can land Yamada, maybe sort something with Balikwisha, reinforce the defense and the wings, then this squad could look very different in a matter of weeks. And hopefully a lot stronger too. There's still time left in the window. There's still plenty of work to do. But for now, the signs are encouraging. The strategy seems sound. And if the club keeps pushing, we might just have something special shaping up for the season ahead. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a stir brewing in the East End of Glasgow, and it's not the usual pre-match chatter. Word on the street from the pubs to the press box is that Brendan Rodgers might be packing his bags sooner rather than later. Aye, ye heard right. The Celtic gaffer's position could be hanging by a thread, with whispers of discontent trickling out from the boardroom and the terraces alike. Rodgers, who returned to Parkhead with grand ambitions and a warm welcome. Last summer hasn't quite rekindled the magic of his first spell. Despite lifting the league title again, performances have lacked the swagger and spark the faithful once grew used to. And with Rangers looking sharper than ever, there's growing murmurs that the Celtic hierarchy might be eyeing a fresh face for the dugout. Sources close to the club say patience is wearing thin. A string of underwhelming results coupled with European disappointments have only added fuel to the fire. Some insiders reckon the board are already sounding new potential replacements, though no official word has come down the pipeline. Of course, Rodgers himself remains tight-lipped, keeping his usual calm demeanor in front of the cameras. But behind closed doors, it's said the atmosphere is less than cheery, with senior players allegedly losing confidence in his tactics and man management. It wouldn't be the first time Rodgers' reign ended abruptly, his previous departure. Tay Leicester still stings for some Hoops fans. Could history be repeating itself? Time will tell, but don't be surprised if there's a major shakeup at Celtic Park before the leaves start to fall. For now, it's all just rumor and murmur. But in Scottish football, where smoke often leads to a fire, few are dismissing this as idle talk. Hello fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.